Hello and welcome to Zoom session number 2. We are in week 2. This week, our topics include the following: classroom practices and English language learners, language and literacy acquisition. Our student learning outcomes are the following: 1, evaluate the appropriateness of instructional materials, media, and technology for use with English language learners in the classroom. 2, determine how literacy acquisition in a second language, L2, differs from acquisition in a first language and how this can be promoted in the classroom. 3, apply knowledge of issues and principles related to English language learners in selecting, planning, delivering, and assessing instructional approaches, lessons, activities, techniques, materials, and assessments to promote success in the classroom. 4, use appropriate formal and alternative techniques and instruments to evaluate English language learners in the classroom. And 5, create learning communities in the classroom. You were up to read and reviewed Program Boyle's chapters 3 and 4, lecture notes, and the PowerPoint. Um, some of the recommended websites we will go with afterwards. Once again, the next assignment is going to be the oral language assessment. The goal of this paper is to write a short paper describing how you might assess a student's oral language performance. The paper is to be clear and concise, and students will lose points for improper grammar, punctuation, and spelling. The paper is to be no shorter than 4 pages, no longer than 5 pages, and the student will automatically lose points if these limits are not followed. Everything should be in APA style. The content requirements is to describe how you might assess a student's oral language performance, describe the different assessments you would use, and explain what you might find out from each. Review the various strategies you might use based upon your assessments to develop the student's oral language abilities. An amendment of 2 journal articles and/or books need to be used in preparation for the paper. This next discussion includes the following: classroom organization. What are some of your most creative ideas relating to classroom organization and strategies that might best assess early readers and writers? Please give your rationale and provide theoretical support. Let's go ahead and go to the textbook, Chapter 3, Classroom Practices for Effective English Learner Instruction. The purpose of this chapter is to present current views on best classroom practices for English learners in K through 12 classrooms. It is to present a model of instruction that helps English language learners acquire English language proficiency, learn grade appropriate content, and adjust socially and emotionally to their new cultural environment. The chapter overviews: teachers of English language learners share the critical responsibility of providing optimal opportunities for their students to develop English, learn important grade level subject matter, and adjust socially and emotionally to school. Over the past decades, certain instructional principles have evolved to guide teachers in meeting those goals successfully. In Chapter 3, we summarize the main principles of effective English language learners instruction. Begins with a discussion of standard-based instruction as a guide to instructional planning. In addition, we discuss differentiated instruction and response to intervention, as well as content-based instruction, CBI. We then address sheltered instruction, sometimes referred to as specially designed academic instruction, English. The SEDI lesson is using elementary and secondary classroom examples. We show how teachers tailor the language of their instruction and provide various formats for student participation that promotes both language and content learning. Once again, SEDI lesson plans. Next, we show how group work and cooperative learning can be used to maximize both language and content learning while promoting positive social relationships among students. We go on to discuss thematic instruction, which we recommend for English learners of all ages, and 6 organizational criteria for theme-based instruction are proposed. 1, meaning and purpose. 2, building on prior experience. 3, using oral and written language for learning. 4, scaffolding for support. 5, collaboration. And 6, adding the spice of variety. The topic of scaffolding is given substantial discussion in this chapter. Due to its importance as a metaphor that helps us create learning environments in which students construct their own knowledge with the help of their teacher and more able peers. We also briefly introduce new literacies, define them, suggest goals for them, state their pedagogical intent, and give resources. It ends with understanding of program evaluation, placement of students, and assessment of student learning and progress. So once again, scaffolding, a very important term. I think most of us know what it is, but really it just allows our English learners to collaborate. to new learning environments, and really using their background knowledge to help them understand new content. The key vocabulary: sheltered instruction or SEDI, KWL or what I want to know, what I know, what I want to know, and what I've learned, literature response groups, functions of print, cooperative groups, jigsaw scaffolding, zone of proximal development, Lev Vygotsky, buddy systems, thematic construction, writing response groups, theme cycles, assessment, new literacies, and differentiated instruction. In chapter 4, we talk about oral language development and second language acquisition. The purpose of this chapter is to present oral communication as a major part of second language acquisition and to show how it relates to and supports literacy development. To present a model illustrating relationships between oral and written language, to describe oral language activities that promote second language acquisition, and create a foundation for written language development. Chapter overview. So much of our day-to-day life involves communicating through the spoken word, whether visiting with a friend, talking on the phone, listening to a lecture in an auditorium or on the radio, negotiating a contract, and so on. Because oral communication is so essential, Chapter 4 is devoted to oral language development as a major goal for English learners and intermediate English language learners. Throughout this chapter, we highlight ways to integrate oral and written language to serve communication and to promote overall second language acquisition. We provide several fun and functional classroom activities that engage students in oral language, such as songs, skits, dramatic poetry recitals, choral readings, and more. When they read about these activities, students will see how they naturally integrate both oral and written language to achieve an effect or purpose. In addition to using oral language for creative expressions, we show how oral language development is served by academic instruction in areas such as science, mathematics, and social studies. We also discuss particular language demands posed by the various academic content areas, especially in terms of specialized vocabulary and syntactic structures. For example, in history, the past tense is used along with terms such as civilization, social organizations, and monarchy. And in science, students may need to understand and use if-then clauses to state hypotheses, and so it goes on. By documenting oral language observations over time, teachers can then construct a valid picture of each student's English language growth. Key vocabulary is receptive language, SOLAM, or student oral language observation matrix, just looking at the checklist, productive language, beginning level oral proficiency, social context, intermediate level oral proficiency, language functions, content instruction, and anecdotal observation. Lecture 2, note, alternative learning opportunities or strategies. This includes workplace literacy, technology literacy, and language arts and numeracy skills. Provision of a structured curriculum, leadership, supporting ESOL students. Once again, promising ESOL strategies in the U.S. community partnerships and innovative delivery of resources, programs, and services, such as traveling libraries to targeted students in sporadically populated and geographically isolated areas. It is the knowledge of the teacher that will help the professional development. This can also be done through coaching and collaboration. Research shows that teachers require more than a year to master the implementation of new approaches to the curriculum. A comprehensive approach. A primary strategy for English language development is the effective implementation of the program of studies throughout the school. We can really look at staff capacity and alignment of the resources, the research-based teaching strategies, the involvement of communities and families, writing and reading projects and strategies are essential. Cross-curricular language learning strategies support school-wide English language learning and develop the metacognitive skills of our students. A focus on nonfiction text is important to student success. I truly believe that. Talks about the promising of our ESOL students and the projects that we can learn from, both the strengths and the weaknesses. I'd like this now to go back up to some of the websites that I have want us to kind of go through. The first one is from literacyworld.com. Literacyworld.com within here this is from the International Literacy Association. It's instructional units for the engaging classroom. If you go right in here, especially readwritethink.org, you will notice that it will give a lot of good information on classroom resources, professional developments, videos, resources for schools, and parental involvement. The one that I particularly like is I like us to, let's say we go to the K through 12 printing press. Click on here. It's going to open up everything. You can get started on it. Gives you about the interactive, gives you lessons, particularly if you were doing, let's say 9th through 10th grade. You can click on it and it's going to give you step by step. It also gives you an idea of what the standard lesson is and how we can then use it to work with ESL students. Some really cool stuff and all free. The next is from wested.org. Wested, let's go ahead and bring it up. This is from their Reading Apprenticeship Framework, from Reading for Understanding, and how reading apprenticeship improves disciplinary learning in secondary and college classrooms. Um, WestEd really started the Reading Apprenticeship Framework. So we can go through here, we can talk about what is reading, reading as a complex issue, reading as problem solving, and what good readers are. It also talks about the relationship between cognitive understanding of our reading and how we actually read. It goes on to show us the metacognitive conversation that we have as readers and active readers. We have the social dimension, which creates safety, investigates the relationship between literacy and power, shares text talking, shares the reading process, problems and solutions, noticing and approaching others' way of reading. We then go to the extensive reading personal dimension, developing reader identity, developing metacognition, or metacognition is just being aware of the way that we learn, developing reader fluency and stamina, developing reader confidence and range. It's then on to the cognitive dimension, getting the big picture, breaking it down, monitoring comprehension, using problem solving strategies to assist and restore comprehension, setting reading purposes and adjusting reading processes, knowledge building dimension, surface first surfacing, building, and reflecting schema, or we already know, building knowledge of content and the world, building knowledge of text, building knowledge of language, building knowledge of disciplinary discourse and practices. As you go through here, you'll start to think about scaffolding. Just, obviously using that background information to really scaffold and understanding material and just getting a little bit of more help from our partners. If you go through, lots of good stuff here. Please make sure that you, it gives you some more information about refining schema. Schema, which again is the stores of knowledge about text and about the world. It's our association, our schema. So that's really based upon schema building. And then it'll kind of go through and talk about particular knowledges and that we have. So some things that you want to just definitely think about, once again, is our prior knowledge or our schema building, things we already know, and our scaffolding. Let's go ahead and go through. Lots of good stuff there. The next website from Invoices. This is about supporting English language learners through technology. Gives you some idea of some hardware, where to, and interactive whiteboards to use, some different web-based software, things that you can definitely look at and definitely use in your discussions as well. And you'll notice that these technology resources will be perfect for our discussions on technology. Next is technology as a tool for literacy in the age of information. Once again, when it comes to discussion 3, this is where you can really start to understand, and discussion 4 is technology as well. So go ahead and feel free to use these. The next is writing workshops. This is by Donald Graves, which is a professor from the University of New Hampshire, talks about what is writing and why students write and what makes them thoughtful and interactive writers. Please read it. Some really good and informative stuff that you can use in all disciplines. And the next, what I've learned from teachers of writing. Really talks about how children read, but it's not just children. It's for all individuals that are learning how to write. Um, okay, so that's about everything that I have for this week. If you have any questions on the final project, please make sure you send me an email. I'm more than happy to meet you at times that are outside of our Zoom session. Take care. Thank you.